This situation can no longer be stopped. A turning point will occur soon. That is January 1st, 2025. It is very important to reveal this in the coming months. They oppose this event as much as they can, 80% of the population. They have simply shifted their focus. Many people are starting to exit their embodiment. January of next year will be a kind of exhalation that will simply turn a large number of people upside down. And on a subtle level, the Council of Souls made such a harsh decision to erase our civilization. Our souls will be reborn into new bodies, into a new structure that has already been planned after ours. However, there are about 10% of the souls who are categorically against it. They are obstructing this event as much as they can. These are usually people who are in service, helping others, people who raise this topic in principle. Here is the raising of this topic, what is actually happening. We should not engage in ordinary conversations and then do nothing afterward. There must be a real step taken after that. In other words, we understand what is happening and we are doing something about it. There is no need for any elaborate rituals. We don't need to delve into some mystical story, as that can be frightening and prolonged. There is no fear, no sense that this is hopeless. In other words, these are thoughts that are imposed on us. Any fear is a program that simply obscures something greater. That is, fears do exist as such. We are all human, and we fear something. But there are fears at the level of instincts, and that is good. This means we cannot cross a busy road without fear. That is to say, there is a very high probability that a machine will kill us, and this is a wonderful fear. But all the other fears related to the fear of life, the idea that the world is frightening, that we are afraid to go out, are these programs imposed on us, which can be removed. After that, we can see what the world is really like.
Where do these programs come from in the first place? Who imposes them? Or do they impose themselves? Or are they some kind of innate programs?
These programs have existed for a very long time. There are no inherent such programs. There is a certain platform of ours. It is a software platform. We are structured like a computer. Of course, we have spirit, soul, and energy structure. I engage a lot in energy research. It is a whole energy structure. But our entire matrix is governed by programs. We are programmed beings in a programmed world. In other words, this illusion, the film that we are watching, is controlled by programs. And of course, there are different types of software. In the old 3D field, literally, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there were programs that were based on the survival program. That is, a basic survival program. And there are many programs beyond that. We are now entering a new stage where the survival program is still functioning, but a new program is emerging, a software related to creativity and creation. Creation is the kind of building that we can use in any area. Previously, we lived through survival. We took any job, including those we did not love, out of survival. We need to earn money to buy something and we survive. Now it is different. When we want, when we rejoice, when we truly desire something, which is the desire of our souls, opportunities arise for us. In other words, any opportunity is now formed through our desires.
So there is a kind of restructuring from survival to self-expression, right?
Yes, this restructuring is quite fragile, it is quite rigid.
I have a question. Will all people be able to undergo this restructuring? Can everyone endure it?
We are all transitioning together because humanity, the humans, is one organism, one living organism. It is impossible for part of the right hand to transition while the left leg remains somewhere else. We all transition together. Therefore, the situation of transition is prolonged. It is quite multidimensional, in the sense that there is no group of people who have jumped into some kind of story, say 5D or 4D, and have fixed themselves there. One can jump out. But there is a rollback happening. That is, a rollback because we are all transitioning together. And those people who have become a little more aware than others understand that they need to uplift, to free, and to bring into a state of lightness. In every person, there is lightness. It is just hidden or cluttered by something. And this junk that exists inside almost every person should preferably be cleaned out. This is, of course, independent work, like cleaning the house or getting rid of old things that people haven't used for 10 years, which are lying in the attic. They need to be taken out and thrown away because it's necessary to make space for the new. And so we all move together. There is no such thing as a group of lucky ones running off somewhere while everyone else is left behind. And even more so, they will lead everyone somewhere to a collapse, to an apocalypse, while the others will live joyfully and healthily. No, this is a collective story.
Many people are, so to speak, being filtered out at this stage. Can a person somehow ease this transition?
Of course, I completely agree that not everyone can endure it because it is about vibrations. On Earth, every 3 months the vibrations increase and they will continue to increase steadily. The increase is not significant. In other words, this is a process that can hardly be felt. Only very sensitive people understand that something happens every 3 months. But this increase creates a state of overwhelm when a person has a lot of heaviness inside. Offenses, some entities, some dark energies, they prevail, and he simply cannot withstand this rhythm. The rhythm that truly resonates with our surrounding world is vibration. In other words, it no longer resonates.
Which people are at risk? How can I understand that I will be under this great pressure of transition first?
Well, probably the main criterion is the attitude towards oneself. If a person is honest with themselves, then they are not at risk. If a person is not honest with themselves, they enter a zone of risk, and it is in the degree of this risk that the frequency of their dishonesty with themselves is determined. Honesty with oneself is precisely that individual, perhaps internal work of answering the questions, am I happy? In other words, am I truly living my life? I love waking up just to enjoy life and smile. Even just with an inner smile to myself. Am I right in understanding that this day is for me? But if a person wakes up with the understanding that they wish this day would end quickly because it is a difficult day, I only need one thing again. In other words, you have to go to work, you have to, and there's this list of things you have to do, and you wake up with only the perspective that soon it will be evening again, and you will fall asleep once more, and this is not his life. In other words, this is not the true life of a person, and this is precisely the risk zone. When there is no joy in life, it is a risk zone. Even among those people who have success in business, a good job, often a strong family, and a nice home. So this picture where there is complete abundance of everything, but inside, if he honestly asks himself if something is wrong, then he is also in the zone of risk. Many people are starting to exit their embodiment because there is a great deception. They lie to themselves. Everything is not as good as it seems. Yes, he has finances, he has a family, he may even have a loved one nearby, but he understands that he has lied to himself so much that he can no longer escape this illusion as if everything is fine. These people are actually at the very forefront of risk.
How does he relate to himself in general?
Absolutely correct.
Is he not deceiving himself? Does he not have some internal conflicts? If all of this exists, despite the seemingly beautiful life on the outside, then he too is subject to transformation.
A good criterion is what he feels at that moment. Does it truly bring him joy? Because many have turned away from the emotions of joy. They do not understand what it is. It seems like, yes, I am functioning. It seems that I have it better than others, or some such criteria. If I can somehow measure my ego better than someone else, it means everything is fine for me. No, this might be joyful for you, but perhaps you don't need such a large abundance. It may be that abundance exists elsewhere, and there you will truly feel comfortable. In other words, this criterion of joy, inner joy, has been lost. And this is probably the biggest mistake of all humanity, that we rushed somewhere, that is, after the external picture, but about the internal.
To show or prove something to someone.
Yes. Focus your attention on others.
And with this, what terms should I choose? Soul.
Did not meet with my own. I am a researcher, so I allow such percentages for research. More than 80% of people around the world live this way. This is a large number. Many channels are saying that soon everything will collapse. I don't know, with some terrifying stories, just because these people, as a rule, also pick up such information that this chaos is happening to almost all of humanity. So the remaining 15% are also not an ideal. Sometimes it is just an occurrence where people begin to feel what they want, and after that they do what they want. But that is not all.
It can be said that right now only about 15% are watching us, and not even all of them, while the rest are not watching at all.
I would say that about 50% of us are watching. Those who are 15% say, yes, but the others feel something is off, yet they continue to watch. Here is the most interesting part. Those viewers and people who are called skeptics are already ready to understand how things really happen, and they are bubbling with this resistance. They just don't know that they can simply allow themselves to do so. You allow yourself to be happy by simply accepting some information that they have inside, and that will resonate. They are still struggling with themselves, but they are already fighting. As for those who do not watch us, yes, it is still too early for that.
So even if you have some kind of conflict with something, a complaint, are you really interested in it?
This is a reason for victory. This is a reason for self-discovery. If nothing is interesting, then... But this is also not the final point. This interest can be raised. It can be restored. It's just that, as a rule, people who lack this interest tend to disregard informational events like your channel and other channels. So there. But everything is so closed off that it manifests through dependencies. Dependencies such as workaholism. One of the heaviest dependencies is workaholism. In other words, alcoholism, even mild drug addiction, is not that difficult. It is not that hard to remove and restore a person. Workaholism is one of the most complex dependencies. There are a large number of people all over the planet who are affected by it. And that's it. They are closed off. Because this story just drains energy. All the energy goes into something that is not their business. In general, workaholics are those people who are engaged in something that is not their own business. There is a small fragment of what interests them, but that fragment is very tiny, while everything else they do for someone else. In other words, they became involved in someone else's desires, be it a company, corporation, partner, neighbor, wife, or husband. This can also happen.
Ivan, you said that approximately 80% of the land is exactly in this fog. Why is that? Have the higher powers of light turned away from us? Why do so many people live lives that are not their own? What is this related to?
When we do not choose ourselves, we choose someone else. After we have not chosen ourselves, that someone becomes anyone. It could be some kind of egregore, it could be a company, it could be dark forces, of which there are many, destructive, and it is the right for us to channel our energy somewhere. Our only task is to draw all the energy to ourselves. Through abundance, we are already helping another person. We create only through abundance. All abundance is within us. When we shift our focus away from ourselves, many people, about 80% of the population of the entire earth, simply redirect their attention to something else. Some to the television, some to work, and some to their loved ones, believing that they are helping them. Often, older generations want to do everything possible for their grandchildren, and it seems benevolent and great, but as an energy practitioner and a researcher, I observe how energy works. In other words, there is a very large potential in a person. He or she is already of age, but the potential is enormous and there is a lot of energy. Ultimately, this energy needs to be channeled somewhere. Such a bright soul and manifested soul, that this person cannot merge into dependency, cannot merge into negativity, and therefore she or he merges into positivity as if to help. But in reality, that grandson, well, the grandson there, I don't know, 17 years old, 18, he needs to go through this path on his own. Yes, help him if he turns to his parents, grandmother, neighbor, or any mentor, but do not walk the path for him. And so many people simply drain their energy and walk this path for him, meaning they live his life. At that moment, that person simply does not have time to live their life, and as a result, they lose their focus. So, it's like this thing, it spirals, and we can infect each other with this story, which is what happened to humanity. Someone does it through good. I really want to do a lot of good for my grandchildren, my nephews, my own, and yet a person simply removes this opportunity to follow their path. Someone, through those entities that are very harsh and destructive, brings about destruction that we all know and see, but it also diverts a person from their path through limitations. There are many systems of limitations in our world. This is a deviation from one's path. However, a person makes the decision to enter these limitations, to take a job where there are strict boundaries that cannot be escaped. There is no creation there. But there are certain professions where everything must be done strictly according to the regulations, yet the person chooses whether to go there or not. In other words, they are not saving the world. Their task is simply to make a choice. That is, he makes this choice, and afterwards there is the closing of the soul and the closing of the physical body. As a rule, this happens gradually, step by step. A person becomes insensitive. They do not feel their soul. And this is also a story about a large number of people across the entire planet.
Could this somehow reflect on the physical body?
Physics, the physical body, is probably the last instance of warning that we are going the wrong way. And we are going the wrong way if we are not living our own life. Physics always suffers last. It is possible to prevent almost any disease and reach a state where a person simply does not get sick. This is absolutely real. In principle, he does not get sick at all. And it's not that he sits in some sterile place. He can travel, go to public places, engage very actively in sports, and participate in any public activities without getting sick. This emphasizes that a person is following their own path, their own destiny. If illnesses occur in the physical body, then something has been missed. It starts in the mind with a thought that is not his, not hers. These thoughts are thrown at us, and then they dominate. Resentment builds up, accumulates, and then it begins to explode from within. Well, it explodes from within, and that's exactly when diseases manifest, when there is a critical mass accumulated. In other words, all diseases are consciously processed by our physical body. Our physical body has a body-mind, and the body-mind is actually wiser than our mind. The body knows everything in advance. The body knows about every interlocutor, about every person, because we are truly one organism. The body has many levers of influence over other people. That is, sometimes speakers and political figures work through their bodies. I can clearly see that the soul is not manifesting, but the body possesses such power that the speaker simply mesmerizes the audience and they hold on. Through words, certain messages and actions are conveyed, and the audience, sometimes referred to as a crowd, a rather unflattering term, begins to act under the influence of such a speaker or leader. This happens all the time. When the soul is not manifested, such things can happen through the body, and it is simply a task to be a leader. What is being put into the mind at this moment is precisely that twisted story that these are not his thoughts. They are simply possessed, they are controlled, they are managed. The body is powerful, but the soul is not present. To prevent this from happening, one must closely monitor whether a person feels their soul. Are they truly sensitive? If the soul is not felt, not manifested, and the body is insensitive, it is a reason to reflect on what influence exists. Is there really control over me? Because we are very sensitive beings, beings of light. I speak with such enthusiasm because we are truly a creation of light. We are light rays. And here we are, possessing such a physical body, able to feel any situation. The body must be open, it must be functional. The body should in no way be in pain and has no desire to be in pain. When we are in pain, the body simply cannot come to terms with it in any other way. It allows us to go nowhere, so that we finally pay attention to ourselves. But, when a person is lying down and can no longer get up, they only think about themselves. That is, there are no thoughts left. He throws all thoughts out of his head and thinks that something needs to be done about it. Before that, he walked as a cheerful and healthy company leader, thinking only about how to do something for others and for the prosperity of the company. And he didn't think about himself at all. That is, very often this story is not about a person being negative or scary, but rather that some kind of essence is sitting inside them, destructively. No, he is just a major figure in his company, and he thinks about the company, the people, and the business from morning till night to ensure everything develops, while he doesn't think about himself at all. And this is where he starts to get sick. It seems like he's doing everything right, paying a good salary, having a good direction in business, truly something creative, yet illnesses come one after another. He simply does not pay attention to himself, and the body is already allowing this illness so that the person will pay attention to himself. In other words, this is one of the reasons to develop a serious illness, simply not seeing oneself while doing everything well in life. From the perspective of our mind, one is indeed doing good things, yet they are still unwell. A common question is why good people get sick.
Socially, you are a cool person. You have everything.
And everyone says that you are cool because you really are cool. That is, you do good things, you have charity, you help people in your company at least. There, beyond salary and good working conditions, you are considered a good person from the perspective of society. But in reality, such a person is the most irresponsible person on the planet, because he does not take responsibility for himself. That is, he does not pay attention to himself. We have a sole responsibility for ourselves. Everything else comes from a state of abundance.
The body is the final station that is already signaling to us.
Either you understand what is what right now.
Either you understand what's going on right now, or I'm checking out, so to speak.
Yes, easy.
This can happen to people because they do not look within themselves. They have a closed connection to their soul and may have some energetic attachments. By the way, Ivan talks about this and much more on his platform. In the Telegram channel, you can learn how to free yourself from attachments, establish a connection with your soul, and accordingly improve your health, it turns out. Yes, great. We talked about various kinds of connections, but I have a question. Is there any way to protect ourselves from them?
I suggest we conduct a short practice. My practices are usually very brief, lasting 40 to 50 seconds. This unique technique of mine, which I revealed a few years ago, I can transmit to energies, Not just to transmit energies, but targeted ones, meaning the energies that are required for specific tasks. And right now, I would set the task of hearing my soul, of expressing my desire. I want to propose a practice for our viewers, for you, to encourage us to feel who we are, how close our soul is, and how truly we can sense these desires right here, right next to us. I do not guarantee that everyone will feel it right away and that we will immediately manifest our desires, because it is a significant amount of work. In fact, we don't need to work that much in life, and I don't even have the word work. That is to say, yes, there are fascinating things that I am interested in doing, including targeting people, engaging in practices. All of this is interesting. But in order to feel one's desire, it is necessary to do the work in honesty. Unfortunately, my practice cannot bring every person to a state of honesty, and only then do they feel their desires. This is the work of each individual. How to approach this work? That is another question. I can show, teach, and explain. The practice works. It works at the moment when you receive these energies. For 2 to 3 hours they unfold, and in our body they remain for about 2 to 3 days. This energy which is yours, this energy that is in your field, I transmit the impulse that allows you to accept your own energy, of which there is a lot. Believe me, every person has a huge amount of energy around them. There is no shortage of energy. It can be accepted, it can be allowed to be received on a constant basis, but for this, one must be a very honest person, an open person. And I suggest we move on to the practice. For this, you will only need your calm state. You can sit or stand, whichever is more comfortable for you. The main thing is that it should be a state in which you feel comfortable. That is, not how you should sit up straight or be overly attentive. No, relax without expectations. I will transmit 3 energies. The first energy is the energy of light. I will transmit them one by one so that you can feel how different the energies are. Because when I conduct a targeted practice, I often combine 2 or 3 energies and they flow as one stream. Now I will try to make it so that you can feel just how different they are. The first energy will be the energy of light. The second energy is faith in oneself. And the third energy is the energy of trust. So, we begin. The first energy is the energy of light. I am starting to transmit. I remind you the practice will take only 20, 30, 40 seconds. Let's go. The second energy is the energy of attention to oneself. And the third energy is the energy of trust. Trust in oneself, trust in the world, just trust. All energies work very gently, very softly. Sensitive people can feel them. And I ask you, please write in the comments what sensations and states you experience. If you did not feel the energies, it's okay. The energies are still working. They are very gentle and will not harm you. It is impossible to overdose on energies. This is your energy, which enters your energy structure in the best possible way.
But I felt it. By the way, the first and third energies are very similar to me. They are warm and comforting.
The energy that I transmit is a kind of initiating process. The initiating process works in such a way that the body begins to naturally receive these energies from the outside. Therefore, if there is a desire, one can take a look. If through the words, "I should do it a second time," something was missing for me, it's not necessary, as the process has already been initiated, an energetic process. Our mind is structured in such a way that if we have been hurt at some point, it protects us and does not allow us to go there. The same applies to energies. When we experienced an overflow of joy and such emotions in childhood, we would start running and jumping, and someone from the adults or caregivers might say, "Don't do that, it's not good, it's uncivilized," and we would close ourselves off. Our mind registered the information that it was dangerous for us at that moment. Well, maybe someone put a little child in the corner at that moment, and he closes himself off. He shuts down, and the mind blocks so that the energy that contributes to the unfolding of joy, the expression of certain emotions, simply no longer flows into the energy structure. And so my practice is generally designed for the mind to conduct a new analysis. For a while, he allowed himself to be filled with these energies again. And if nothing terrible is happening, and nothing destructive is occurring at that moment, he says, well, yes, this energy can be activated in a constant mode, because everything is fine, everything is good. And a person then begins to naturally fill with these energies. This works quite interestingly in that it becomes accessible, either on a permanent basis or until the next moment when closing occurs again. Closing usually happens through fear. In other words, any fear closes us off. Fear does not protect us in any way. Aside from the instinctual fear that truly protects us from rash actions, any other fear is a limitation. This also applies to the energy. In the moment of practice, one can truly feel this state of freedom, inner freedom, very strongly. Because when the soul manifests, this practice of mind that I am now proposing is precisely about the freedom of the soul. And at that moment, a person is in freedom. They begin to breathe. Very often, there is a state where I realize that I haven't been in this state for a long time, even though it is mine. I remember, but after a day or two, some fear comes in again. We close ourselves off, and it gives that command again. I no longer receive that energy, and the person experiences a kind of regression. Therefore, just observing the practices is not enough. This is an inner work that needs to be carried out, specifically to uncover one's desires and one's soul. Because we, as humans, are susceptible to substitution, to the substitution of history, where our desires are not our own, because our ego's program allows such foreign thoughts to pass through. Well, it seems that we want to be successful and famous, but that is not our desire. A husband or wife simply wants to see their other half in a certain light, like they are famous, or they are a doctor, or they are some other kind of specialist. Let's say that parents sincerely want something for their children, and the child ends up pursuing a specialty that their relatives want. But the child does not want it. By the age of 30, they realize that they are not in the right place because they have fulfilled not their own desires, but those of the people close to them. Therefore, it is very important to feel one's own desire and express it in all areas. That is, dark structures naturally impose some influence that distracts us from life. But even our close relatives who wish us well also participate in this structure of deviation from the true path. Unconsciously, it is clear through what seems to be good, but in reality, every person can feel their desires. And so, revealing sensitivity is something that requires time, dedicating time daily. It can be a form of self-work. Working on whether I truly want this. A thought has come to me, and at some point I need to learn to ask myself, do I really want this? If the inner response is a quiet yes, a careful yes, then we do it. But if the inner response is a no, then we think about why we should do it. That is, one should not abruptly exit this situation, but thinking about it is already 50% of success. And if all day it's no, 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 then this is not our life. This is quite a diagnosis, probably not acceptable for everyone because the mind does not allow it, in honesty. But if you go through and receive this self-diagnosis, and it turns out to be no, 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 or almost always no, then something needs to be done about it. That is, life needs to be changed. and it can change for the better. It is not necessary to do it abruptly, just think about it rationally, through our mind. The mind is wonderful, and in no case should it be shut down or blamed for everything, as if it is due to the fact that the thoughts are muddled and have thrown something off again. No, the mind is wonderful. It just needs to be used for its intended purpose, only through the filtering of what we want to do. If we truly want our desire, we act, and the mind helps us. But if we pursue a desire that is not ours, then the mind, of course, will not assist in that regard. And that's when all sorts of twisted stories happen in life.
Friends, Ivan talks about how to start living your life, how to free yourself from attachments, how to get rid of external influences, and how to improve your health on his Telegram channel. We will leave the links below the video, so feel free to check it out and get acquainted. What can we expect in the near future?
All processes are now accelerating so powerfully that the processes leading to the exit from embodiment are unfortunately also accelerating. That is, this situation can no longer be stopped. Life is happening. Life is the point of birth. Accordingly, the next point is death, and then again rebirth. Therefore, life always flows. It will always be. The question is how to relate to this. That is, we can extend our lives, and this is absolutely reasonable, accessible, and possible. The lifespan of our body is, one could say, quite infinite, around 500, 600 years. These are real figures when we can truly not age and remain in this body. But for this, one must express their true desires and wish so globally and on such a large scale that the 100 to 120 years allotted to us, which we have practically approached naturally, would not be enough. That is, this is a certain threshold of the physical body's age. But this threshold is illusory because our desires are not manifested. We do not feel our soul, and we do not think globally about how we want to live in the future. It's not just about estimating through the ego again. And the ego in these desires, it is certainly there. That is 1, 2, 3, and it seems that life has succeeded, and after that we will finally live somehow. But in reality, this state of life should be present every day. That is, every second we want to live, while also seeing the vast perspective of life, and then life turns out to be longer. Life is more interesting. And what awaits us is what is inside us. If we are closed off, if we allow such connections and do not resist them, then life gradually starts to diminish. This is the truth of life. It is indeed a reality for many people, but it can be avoided.
So what do you think? How long will this transition last?
Well, actually, about 2.5 years ago, the figures indicated that the point of no return is January 1st, 2025. That is, this is the point when it will be either or. The question is that these dates are always imprecise. They are postponed and brought closer, and there is a very high probability that this date will remain. I am confident that nothing drastic will happen, meaning there will be no floods or natural disasters, although there is a probability of such events, and it is slightly over 30%, which is already a good figure for it to potentially occur. But I am sure that this will not happen. Right now, the pace is such that a huge number of people are thinking positively, thinking about themselves, thinking about the state in which we want to live, in a light, free world, free within. Here, inner freedom is what gives rise to life. And when a significant number of people, as is happening now, begin to overflow with a thirst for freedom, freedom of movement, freedom in all its forms, such as being able to work remotely, this represents a certain freedom that allows me to live and travel simultaneously. The people who are in the offices are already thinking that something is not right, meaning that it can be done differently. And now is the time to make a decision. That is, we are not really going through this story in physics, meaning we are not free. But the question now remains whether we have a chance to attain this freedom in our minds. As soon as such thoughts arise, we clear the space of everything unnecessary and begin to feel our soul freely, breathing freely. Yes, perhaps we are still within the framework of the office work or in some constrained circumstances, but inside we are free. If this state remains until the end of the year, there are not many months left. And I see this curiosity for life emerging in a large number of people. I think that this point will simply shift the so-called time loop when humanity is given a new period of time again. It could be 1,000 years, 2,000 years. It doesn't matter how much time, we will simply exhale. I am confident that January of next year will be a kind of exhalation that will simply turn many people around, showing them that it is possible to live differently, and they will begin to live, meaning they will start to allow themselves what they truly want. I believe in such a fairy tale that January comes and many people make a decision to live differently. Not through the breaking of something old, but through what I will allow. It is precisely in the mind, in thought, that the realization of my freedom appears. I am free enough that no connection affects me. That is already sufficient to prevent any influence. One can say to oneself that I do not allow anyone to influence me, and at that moment, something happens, meaning there is a certain relief. It's an easy practice. It doesn't always help, of course, but it's a start towards movement towards freedom, meaning that I am already internally against it. Outwardly, I may remain in the same situations, and I might even nod along to someone I disagree with, but inside I am already against it. This is a state of upheaval, a revolution, but not in terms of changing something in the country or the world. It's about changing my internal relationships. In other words, I no longer agree with something. I do not accept limitations within myself. It cannot be like this with me. And this is precisely the turning point. Therefore, I believe that a turning point will occur in the near future, and it will happen internally. That is, there are no cataclysms or such natural disasters as many describe and see. In fact, they see them because they are manifested in the subtle plane. This can practically be all in reality. The probability is such that these events are very closely approaching. But I am sure they will dissolve because there is an inner state of freedom. Freedom does not come with any limitations. Any cataclysms and such natural disasters are a reflection of internal constriction, internal unfreedom. I studied from an analytical perspective, and one free person is equivalent to about 10,000 to 20,000 unfree people in terms of their inner state. In other words, on a subtle level, the overall temperature of the earth is red, indicating the state we are in.
Does one person compensate for 20,000?
Yes, 20 can be more. It is a question of the quality of freedom. I allow freedom. I simply allow freedom, that I am a free person. And I'm already pulling in 10, 20, 30,000 people below the average level, as if we are free. And that person who simply lives freedom, truly promotes it, creates freedom for job opportunities, for other people. The proportion there is completely different. I don't want to mention numbers, but even those that are not yet realized, which are not free, are counted in much larger figures. In other words, we are a collective being, an organism, truly collective. And it is enough for us that some part of this organism is already starting to reformat everything else.
To prevent all sorts of tsunamis and cataclysms, it is enough to have 1/20,000th of the entire population of the earth. This number of people would already create balance.
And there are such people. It is very important to value your life so that there is no influence on such individuals. It is very important for each such firefly to pay attention to themselves. They distract such masters, they distract such people, shifting their attention to someone else. That is, it is not the super-destructive forces that switch them, and such people, as a rule, cannot be switched by super-destructive forces. They are simply switched to something that is not theirs. And so they are not following their own path. And at the same time, this point of freedom, this point of luminosity, does not become much brighter than the potential they possess. It is very important to reveal this in the coming months, to reveal it in people, to reveal it in masters. Help them, show them how powerful and bright they are, because many masters are indeed very powerful and bright, but for some reason, they do not allow themselves to shine so brightly. They have limitations, and this influence is something that is better to get rid of, to remove, to dissolve. And then people manifest. This brings them joy inside, from the perspective of the personality, because it is a manifestation, a release of energy, and there are many benefits that come from it. On a planetary scale, this is a new spotlight, a new light that simply attracts events of ease, joy, and creativity. But the most important event is creativity and creation, which is already available to us. And here we go.
And creativity is possible if no one influences me, if I listen to myself. And right now, while you were speaking, it felt like you even gave a mini practice. This is what allows nothing to influence me.
Such an intention works. It is a start. After that, many can immediately feel lighter, wondering why and how, and then continue in honesty, asking what. In other words, there is a law of free will, and it is followed by everyone, both the light and the dark. The light beings at this moment, well, I don't know. They might lay down some straw for us, but they won't really help much, because we are not channeling this will. We are not turning to our angels, archangels, or these light forces at all, because we do not believe, we do not want to. We somehow push them away, and they also adhere to non-interference. The dark ones have a different structure. They always open the door and say, come in. That is, the door is open, come in, and they pull you somewhere. And here is the question for us. We will take a step there. We will go, yes, we will leave, but we may not go, and then they are powerless. They always keep this door open, but it's only when we decide whether to go there or not. The bright forces never say, go there. Yes, they lay out the path with signs, feelings, and states, but this is not a call to action. It is a dark call to action. Everyone ran, and I ran too. I don't know where they ran. And now I have drawn in, I have moved on. From here on, you can do anything you want with me. That is, I went under the influence of someone or something. That's it. I am led, I am being guided. But if I am sitting calmly and drinking tea at that time and we are not rushing anywhere, we approach it with intention. Yes, we want to go there and we will go. Maybe we will even run. Perhaps we will run ahead of everyone, but only from our impulse that I want to. That is, there is no need to be afraid. I want to. Then we will go there.
Even more such information, even more. Free practices on how to protect oneself from external influence. Ivan has all of this on Telegram. We will leave the links below the video. Go ahead, get acquainted, and explore. What should a person do to be saved?
Well, first of all, we need to understand that we don't need to be saved. There is nothing we need to be saved from. Being saved is an old survival script. When we want to save ourselves, hoard something, not spend energy, and keep everything inside. That is precisely the old script, and there is no luck to be found there. That is, our task is to transition into a new space, a space of creativity and creation. The creator is not saved. We are the part that can create, and so we do not need to be saved. We need to reveal our strengths and talents. And this is where our manifestation lies. So we simply let go of the thought of salvation and move into honesty. What do we want? We want to live, we want to rejoice, and we start living and rejoicing right now. That is, we are not saving ourselves. This story just needs to be thrown out of our heads. To save oneself, to stock up, to protect oneself from something, let's just start throwing this story out right now. And in the next moment, we live from a state of what we want. And for this, we need to take steps. We need to take truly real steps. This is called life, and we begin to live our life.
And this is definitely directly related to one's own purpose, right?
Yes, of course. Destiny is that point we are all heading towards. It is a matter of time. Some will reach it over a long period, while others will do so over their entire lives. You can reach this point very quickly, in a month, 2 months, or 3 months. And when we get to this point, a new life begins. One that is very easy, calm, but also very productive. There we begin to take 100% responsibility for ourselves and to create, and take these steps. In other words, that is where a person's true life begins. But to reach this destiny, one must of course get rid of all the unnecessary burdens, of the heaviness. If such thoughts are often present, to save oneself from something, one needs to clear everything out here. It should be done very efficiently, very quickly, without stretching it out over time. Here is the most important thing, as I call it: do not indulge in this misfortune, because the old script implies that we meet and compare who has a stronger illness or a more difficult situation. This is a utopia. This is a conversation of a program that leads to nothing. We meet to share what joy I have and what joy you have. And here we really encounter the fact that it's so great. I mean, I truly see how wonderful and amazing it is for you, and I am happy for you. And you see what is happening in my, family company. And this is a reason for us to meet. When we meet to share our troubles, it is an old script from which we simply need to take a step and exit. For this, yes, we need to tighten up a little more to look, but only to look truthfully. That is, if this is present in life, something needs to be done about it, it needs to be addressed, it needs to be cleaned up, but not for long. In other words, this is not a month-long process of working through something. There is no need to work through anything, you just need to take it and live. For the last 2.5 years, I have been working on discovering my purpose. This includes both individual work and group work. This is preparatory work. Therefore, if I were to give some advice briefly, it would be the same. It remains the first piece of advice I have already given. To be honest with oneself every second. This is work. Cannot be done master or in a group. This is inner work. With a group or individually with me, one can already constructively move towards their purpose, specifically deciding what needs to be done, how to do it, and immediately taking action. But there is preparatory work, and here is my advice. Be honest with yourself in every matter. Don't tell anyone that I am the most honest person. I don't lie to anyone. The question is within myself, right? Inside. I enjoy it. And any decision, any action that we take or have taken is further influenced. Do not blame yourself. Do not hurt yourself for doing something again that you do not want to do. It is simply an opportunity to understand how to get out of this situation. And this is where you need to step out. That is, this is real work to get out of a situation that is not yours, that you do not like. This is the work. This self-work serves as advice. First, we are honest with ourselves and understand that we are not satisfied with our situation. Then we do something about it, but not for long. The pace of time is very fast right now. If we want to change, everything changes. The main thing is to allow this change to happen. For this, we need to see what we do not like. It is frightening very often. There are many stories about these dark forces that simply do not allow us to move beyond fear. That is, we are scared, and we do not look. We are in pain, and we do not look. We would rather take a pill or find some master to guide us somewhere, but we won't look into this pain, into this fear ourselves. And behind the pain and fear, there is nothing to be afraid of. We need to go through it. Here is my advice. Be honest and keep moving forward. Move forward every time, but do not stop. Keep going, because what lies ahead is not frightening. You need to go there. Keep going.
I believe that our short energy practice will help many today to open the path to this honesty with oneself. Also, Ivan has a course on the topic of purpose.
Yes, there are courses, and it involves group work. There is individual support, where for a whole month I accompany a person on their journey. However, I am not leading them by the hand. I gently and carefully show them the path to avoid, but the person walks it themselves and makes their own decisions. There is a group revelation of purpose, which is an opportunity that everyone has. Each person determines the path they will take. And if there is a response to come to me, I invite you to work. It is gentle, it is careful, it is very delicate work. We do nothing against your will. We will leave the link to the course below the video. Friends, go ahead, get acquainted, and discover your purpose. Well, on that note, we will say goodbye. See you soon.
Thank you. All the best.